Welcome to the 2022 Washington Small Business Fair, better known as BizFair. I'm Rafael Colon, the Business Outreach Manager for the Employment Security Department and one of the many supporting sponsors of BizFair. It is an honor to welcome you as you are in for a special treat this year. Each fall, the small business ecosystem in Washington comes together to put on BizFair, the longest running all-day, all-government and nonprofit run-free small business fair in Washington State. We are 26 years young, becoming wiser and getting better at improving our delivery of business services virtually and in person. This is why BizFair 2022 is a special treat this year, because it is a hybrid event with both in-person and virtual attendees having a unique event experience. It is an amazing collaboration between state agencies, the private sector, and associations to the benefit of small businesses and entrepreneurs like you. This one-day conference is where current or aspiring small business owners learn from savvy experts. We have representatives from government agencies, mentors from SCORE and other partner organizations, current business owners and consultants, and many more. Before, during, and after the conference, you're invited to visit us on our virtual platform by starting at bizfair.org. BizFair remains a unique opportunity for thousands of current and aspiring small business owners to be informed, educated, and inspired to access many of the no-cost services offered. Meet with mentors, advisors, trainers, educators, and fellow business owners and entrepreneurs. Connect to various government agencies for assistance who understand your business. Find out about financial resources to support your entrepreneurial efforts, and network with chambers of commerce, economic development associations, WorkSource, and other statewide business associations. We are successfully continuing our virtual presence to further the outreach efforts to small businesses throughout Washington State. There are 4 virtual tracks: plan your business, start your business, build and run your business, and grow your business, with over 25 learning sessions, all available for viewing until June 2023. There are several in-person tracks with learning sessions as well. There is something for everyone throughout the day. If you attend the event in person or at Renton Technical College, Renton, Washington, you can also visit tables staffed by federal, state, and local agencies. They will answer all your questions, and you can gather information essential for the success of your small business. If you are virtually attending, there are experts in the virtual booths to assist you. We are excited that you have joined us at BizFair 2022. Now, it is my pleasure to introduce to you this year's keynote speaker, Mr. Efrem Fesha, founder and CEO of Boon Bonna Cafe. Efrem is a first-generation Eritrean American whose family moved to the U.S. in 1988 when his father received an offer to work for Boeing as a mechanical engineer. He is a graduate high school from West Seattle. He received his BA from Washington State University. He worked for 13 years in corporate finance locally for Holland America, Nordstrom, and Amazon. In 2011, on an extended visit to his native country of Eritrea, Efrem was inspired by the coffee culture in its capital, Asmara, and wanted to pursue a venture in coffee. Upon returning to Seattle, he launched Bonna Coffee with the goal of sourcing the best quality coffee beans from Africa. Working closely with coffee farmers from many African nations, he developed long, lasting relationships with them and helped ensure the sustainability of their crops. The first Boon Bonna coffee roastery and coffee location was established in downtown Renton, a second one in the Central District of Seattle, and the third one is on its way on University Avenue near the University of Washington. Efrem won the U.S. SBA Washington Small Business Person of the Year Award of 2022 and was recently named the 2022 Pacific Northwest Small Business Person of the Year.
Welcome everyone to BizFair 2022. It is a pleasure to be here with each and every one of you. I'm looking forward to this day, to this time together. I'm honored. I'm so grateful for this opportunity to be asked. I'm grateful to the entire team that has helped put this together. put this event together, as well as this. That's kind of navigated me through getting this video put together as well. Everyone behind the scenes and in front of the scenes. I'm so honored. I'm so grateful to be here with each and every one of you and to get to share this moment. And honestly, I'm so brand new and so yeah, it's all brand new to me. But honestly, the opportunity to get to speak to you all on the maybe little bit that I have gained in experience and understanding, I am happy and I'm so excited to get to share that little bit that I know with you. And I hope that leave you with some inspiration, some guidance, something that just to excite your day, hopefully even. But truly, this is an honor for me, and I'm grateful to be here. My name is Efrem Fesha. I am the CEO and founder of Boona Coffee, based in Great Renton, Washington. We are honored to have you all here in Renton as well, and virtually everywhere else. But Renton is home, Boona, and we are, ecstatic. We yell it out everywhere we go. We rep it wherever we can. Renton is incredible. It's an incredible city. It's a very diversity. It's a city that is growing in so many different ways, and to have a business here has been a true honor and pleasure, privilege, because the support has just been incredible. But today I'm going to spend some time talking about my journey, but I'm also going to share some of the stories, some of the tribulations that have accompanied this journey of mine into entrepreneurship. And I'm looking forward to get to share that here with you all. But I grew up in Saudi Arabia, in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. That's where I was born, and I came here at the age of 5. And I grew up in West Seattle, and really the opportunity to come here was really the fact that my father had landed an opportunity with Boeing here in Renton. So that's my connection to Renton, was that initially. And then later on, Renton kind of for other reasons, and we'll get into that as well. But, grew up a little bit in Saudi Arabia, but a majority of my time was here in Seattle. I went to elementary, middle school, high school here, and then I went to WSU for my undergrad. My family originates from Eritrea, which is in East Africa. And because of war, they left back in the 70s across over and immigrated to Saudi Arabia, from Saudi Arabia to the US. But I gained my education at WSU. And honestly, at the time when I was in school up there, my focus was, of course, enjoying myself. But at the same time, it was also to gain some understanding on the business side. And a lot of my prereqs were business and accounting and finance. And as much as I enjoy doing those things, I wasn't enjoying the study of the field as much. And so it wasn't until I got out that I started working in corporate finance. And after about a 14-year career in corporate finance, having worked for Amazon, Nordstrom, Holland America, and some of our other local businesses here, I enjoyed the kind of the skills gained, the challenge found with problem solving in finance. But I wasn't really as inspired about what it is that I was selling or what I was doing. And I knew that an underlying, kind of desire for where it is that I wanted to go was starting to bubble up. But I knew that there were fundamental things that I needed to gain in order to kind of venture off. And so that time that I spent working in my corporate finance, my corporate finance gigs, at the time I hated it, but I enjoyed the challenge. But I also knew that it was for the benefit of something in the future. Underlying all of that was a desire to explore my heritage, to understand my culture, and really, right as I was leaving college, I started to dive deeper into it. learning how to read into Grinya and Giz and Amharic, trying to understand more of my history. And I had the opportunity to kind of make it through a very challenging time, which was the 2008 financial crisis, while working in finance. And unfortunately, I was able to keep my job, but those that stayed had to kind of take on 2-3 people's jobs, basically, because really it was, folks trying to, these businesses trying to find a way to survive, but with, tighter budgets. And so in that time, I really got burnt out. I was fatigued, mentally fatigued, physically fatigued, and just really feeling a sense of, not a lack of belonging, and really wanted to understand where it is that I wanted to go, what I wanted to do. I knew that I couldn't stay in that role, in that place for a very, very long time, and any more than what it is that I had already done up until that point. And so I decided to take a trip, and it was 2011. It was the tail end of 2010, right at the beginning of 2011. I decided to take a trip to Eritrea. Along the way, I stopped at a few other places and had my big backpack and just kind of doing my, midlife crisis, trying to figure out who I want to be or where I want to go. But I spent the majority of that trip in Eritrea. I spent 3 months out of my 6 months of traveling. And in that time, I got to spend time in the village, where my, forefathers, foremothers all resided, all grew up. And if my father had never left or my mother had never left, I would still be there. I would be probably a farmer with my goats or something, and I kind of looked back at that and in that time and started imagining what my life would have been like. And I was like, that actually sounds pretty awesome. But I didn't stay the course on that one. I decided that I kind of wanted to come back and do something different. And in that time, as I was gaining this understanding of my culture and my history, I fell in love with coffee. Eritrea was colonized by Italy for a period of 50 years. And so a lot of the Art Deco or the architecture there, but also a lot of bakeries and cafes had espresso machines and roasteries inside of them. And there was one in particular that I was really inspired by, which was Tre Stelle, which was in the capital city at Asmara. And so I said, I love the way they experience coffee in this space. People come in and they spend, hours there. They're playing games there. They're, having meetings there. And also the smell of freshly roasted coffee inside that space was really like enticing. And it was something that I wasn't familiar with, having grown up in Seattle. A lot of the cafes are usually just, it's just the walls and, you don't smell coffee really. And I said that there's an opportunity here that I'm not seeing back where I'm at. And so I returned from that trip and was committed to hunkering down for basically a period of time, not telling my CFO that I was back in town, because when I left, my CFO was actually kind enough to say, hey, just when you come back to us, which I was honored by, but I wasn't too sure if I was going to do that. But I came back and I was quiet about my return. And for 2 months, all I did was focus in on my business plan. And I wrote up the business plan as how I wanted to structure it. I created a financial plan, which once again, back to that time spent in my corporate finance roles, I had a full understanding of what I needed to do for a pro forma. I understood, what I should consider. And what I would do is I would go do market research basically. And so I would go to cafes. I'd spend time at the cafe, just keeping an account on how many people are coming in. On average, over the course of hour, 2 hours, how many people came in at what period of time? Was it the morning? Was it afternoon? Was it the evening time? Roughly how many people in line? What is the average time it takes for someone to order and get their drinks? and what's acceptable. Where do you start seeing people, kind of get frustrated, and just all this observational kind of research that I then started to put into my performa to start setting some realistic expectations. At this time, I didn't have coffee experience, none. I had grown up like most Eritreans and Ethiopians and even Sudanese and others from East Africa who grew up with roasting and brewing their own coffee at home. And I'll show you what that looks like. It's these tools right here. These are called jebanas. And these jebanas are what we brew our coffee in. This is almost 1,000 years old of brewing. This is our espresso machine, our French press. This is it. This is the original. But we continue to do this in the diaspora. We still do this at homes. Yes, it's tradition that is common to date in Ethiopia and Eritrea and such, but it's still something that we practice here in our households. And so I was very familiar with that. And so I knew how to roast coffee. I knew the process. I didn't know how to make good coffee, but I knew what it took. And so I had this plan, and immediately I started putting it out to a few banks. And this is now the tail end of 2011. And rejection after rejection after rejection. It was basically, it came down to, why is this even important? Why would we care to show this tradition? Who cares about the origin of coffee and all that other stuff? Can you sell that coffee and can you get me out? I need coffee to wake up. That's what I was being told. And I understand where that comes from. You, as a bank, you're looking for things that have been tried and proven before you lend. But in order to have something different in the market, you kind of have to either do some research to understand what it is that that person is trying to present, or have some willingness to be creative and try and test things out. Try convincing a banker to do that. That's tough. So the rejections came. By 2012, March of 2012, I said, forget it. I'm incorporating. I'm moving forward with my plan, regardless of what they told me. So March 2012, I incorporate. I get a lawyer. I started doing all the diving into, how many shares I should be considering and how should I structure C Corp, S Corp, LLC, all those good questions that one should ask themselves before they get into it. And just started evaluating what I wanted to do. At the same time, then I said, you know what? I know the source. I've got family in Ethiopia I can reach out to. Call them up and I ask, where do you guys get coffee from? And they were able to connect me with a few farms and co-ops to start connecting. And with that, I started to have small amounts of coffee to start exploring with. That became the entry point for me to start getting that experience into coffee. A few months go by and my mother sees that I'm playing with coffee, and obviously she does that traditional coffee ceremony in the house all the time. And so she's like, hey, let me get that good stuff. I see what you got over there. And so I started providing it to my mom, and she's like, I'm getting my coffee from you. And then what happens? My aunties, her friends start asking for the coffee as well. And that's said, okay, all right, there is a need in the market for green coffee. And green coffee is unroasted, it's the raw product. It's the stuff before you cook it. It's an onion before it's sauteed. It's really, a coffee bean grows as a red cherry. And inside of it, there's these two little green seeds that face one another. Those little green beans are then cooked in a pan or thrown into a commercial roaster. And it browns up, gets brown, and it becomes the roasted coffee that we're all familiar with and are drinking right now. And that whole process, the green side is not available. It's not readily available. It's not easy to access. Information behind that coffee is difficult to obtain. And that became the opportunity. I started selling green coffee in the East African stores throughout the Seattle, King County area, just in small bags. And then that eventually led to us putting it into other cities. But for a period of about 4 years, all I did was primarily focus on green coffee. By 2016, it then started to change and it became roasted coffee. We layered that into the business. And finally, after that period of time, I then said, okay, I think I might be ready for the next venture. That next venture was what I had presented back in 2011. So by the time I got to 2018, 7 years had passed from the time that I took my trip, from the time I got my rejections. But throughout that time, throughout those 7 years, what I was doing was I was working my full-time finance job to invest, to reinvest into the coffee business because it was still losing money. But I wasn't going to give up on it. And then additionally, to sustain my life, I knew I had to be practical, even though I was a dreamer. And I think that that's something that, one should kind of consider. I've definitely felt the angst and the desire to leave my job many a times and say, why am I doing this? I just need to go fulfill my dreams. And I agree. We should all go fulfill our dreams. That should be it. At the same time, I felt that I needed to be practical of like, well, I need a place to live. I need to be able to invest into my business. And I'm not going to get it from the banks. I'm not getting it from anyone else. So I've got to do this. And so, clinch down, and just do it. That was my mentality. And over that period of time, maybe I did learn some things. And it took me a long time to kind of reflect back and say, no, not maybe. I definitely learned some things. Throughout that time, I was very difficult. I was really tough on myself, having not gotten to where it was that I desired to get to. But at the same time I had also known that I was progressing closer to my dreams. And so I pressed that, to consider the practical side as well as the dreamer side. Entrepreneurship is definitely is something that is spurred from a desire to go achieve something that maybe no one else has done, or a passion that one has deep down inside of them, and a fulfillment that they're wanting to get to. Well, that is doable. That can happen, and still being practical to on the day-to-day to get to that dream. Is a balancing act. I would tell you that a lot of the gray hairs on my head stem from me being so tough on myself. And I would say, if I could look back and say, Efrem, please just take it easy. You're gonna get there. You believe in this so much. There's no way you're gonna stop. So don't worry so much about your desire, your ambitions, your goals somehow fading. It's there. Just stay on course. And by the time 2018 came, I had the history from this green coffee and the roasted coffee that we were selling. I had P&L, I had a balance sheet, I had shown a profit, I had a history with my bank, I had a history with Department of Revenue and getting my taxes done. And now I could go back to those banks and still get rejected. Yeah, still get rejected. The rejection part is something that you kind of have to almost accept. It's a difficult thing to take on and to experience, but it just really tells you that it's an opportunity to problem solve. Because just because the big bank said no, maybe there's an opportunity somewhere else. And that somewhere else came in the form of CDFIs. They came in the form of Craft 3, for me specifically. Small community development funds are opportunities that basically provide you to be able to tell your story. No different than I'm sharing my story right now. It's an opportunity to share that story. And I was very fortunate to have an ear from two individuals at Craft 3, Chi and Sem. They're still at Craft3, and I do highly recommend them as an organization. But just to be frank and honest, that's who was willing to give me that chance, was the CDF office. And there are definitely other resources, and maybe the big banks are willing to bank with you. They just weren't willing to do that with me. So 2018, got this history. I get the CDFI funding, and it's not that much, but it's enough to get my space. It's enough to get my roaster. It's enough to get the cafe. I'm going to take a quick pause here and kind of give you a little bit of history to coffee, but then additionally to speak to why we wanted to go about it this way. One, the names Boon and Boona is how we say coffee in East Africa. So Boon is more common in Eritrea, and Boona is more common in Ethiopia. And the word coffee itself, well, we all know that. But do you know that the word coffee itself is derived from a village in Ethiopia called Kaffa? Kaffa, Ethiopia is the birthplace of coffee. So Boon Boona coffee is just coffee, coffee, coffee in 3 different languages, but it's paying its respect as to where it comes from. And so once again, that word coffee, it originates from a village in Ethiopia called Kaffa. And the story for coffee and how it's found in Ethiopia goes a little like this. It's a myth, it's story, it's passed down generationally, but imagine it. All right. So there was this goat herder, his name is Chaldees. Chaldees was up in the mountains with his goats, and as they were eating, he was taking a nap. He wakes up to hear them make a whole bunch of noise. And he's concerned, so he goes and checks on his goats and sees that they were eating on these little red cherries that were in these trees. And he's not familiar with this, so he takes a branch of it, takes his goats back with them, and asks the elders, hey, these goats were eating this, these cherries, and they're acting up now. I don't know what's going on with them. Well, the elders weren't familiar with it either, and they throw it into a fire. It starts to cook. Once it cooks, they smell the sweet aroma of coffee. That smell enticed them to grab one of those little cherries and start to chew on it. And they also felt that kick. That kick was caffeine. That's how coffee first got started to get consumed in Ethiopia roughly 1,000 years ago. That story has held true for many generations. There are different formats of it. Once again, everybody's got a little bit of a version to it, but in essence, that's how it went down. Okay. Now from there, coffee then started to get roasted, started to get ground motor pestle, and then water was added to these clay pots, these jebadas. So ground coffee, water, brew on top of the heat, and you've got coffee. This was the next stage of coffee. Coffee then moved from Ethiopia to Yemen, Yemen up to Turkey, Turkey into Europe, Europeans took it to Indonesia, and into Central and South America by about the 1500s, 1600s. That's how coffee got all over the world. But it originates out of Ethiopia. That story is very important. That narrative is very important. And that was one of the core reasons for me getting into coffee, to tell that story. That's what I desired was the desire to share that history. We're in, the capital of coffee. Seattle is the hub for it. But not too many are telling that story. Not too many people are given the opportunity to tell that story. And I felt that it was important to tell the origins of where coffee came from. And that's something that is important to who we are. Additionally, it then sourced kind of how we wanted to go about our business and what it was that we were trying to accomplish. So a lot of that history is what also spurred the business. So that green coffee selling, and then the space. What it was that we were looking to create within Boon Boona Coffee was a space similar to what I had seen back in Asmeta, where people came and spent time inside the cafe, where they built community. So it was equally important for us to try creating that safe space. You know, early days when I was still selling the green coffee, I think back about all the mom and pop shops that offered me just a little bit of shelf space to put my coffee up there. And I remember, you know, the me asking and them obliging on occasion. and and I knew that if ever given the opportunity, I need to reciprocate that it is a part of what Boona is. That's how we will give back. And so we said, we open up this space, we're going to have pop-ups, we're going to have events, we're going to have things that bring the community together. So we've had the library here, we've had events with poetry and local middle school playing, you know, their quartet in here. And that is an inviting experience. And that is what we had desired to create. And I speak about Boon as a we because I'm not doing it by myself. I haven't done it by myself. My mother inspired me. My family inspired me. There were many that were involved in this. My friends came and helped me put up this stuff here. So it's important that I always speak about it as a we. The story and the history of coffee was the start of it all. But the next part was what we were going to do next. How do you create a business around this history? How do you create a business that is deeper than what it is that I had been experiencing in my finance capacity, in corporate finance capacity? How do I find something that is much more enriching? That became the next exercise. Well, I said, okay, one, I want to focus in on sourcing. I want to focus specifically on how to source from Africa. Reason being, well, I just told that history there. And of course, it's the birthplace, but then there are many other countries involved in coffee in Africa: Kenya, Rwanda, Burundi, Congo, Uganda, Malawi, Tanzania, so on and so forth. Cameroon, it's going into West Africa even. So I said, okay, let me focus in on African producers. Let me highlight those producers. Let's find partners that we can really support and leave lasting positive impact there. Not only from how much we pay, but who we're sourcing it from, and also who's involved in our supply chain. That became very important to me. That was one area. I also knew that I wanted to be able to control the roasting part. I wanted to be able to determine how the quality of the coffee came out. I was fortunate to find a good friend in this journey. His name's Ali Guldran, and he has been my right hand for this journey since the time we met in 2016. But in 2019, he has been here with me to help in defining our coffee program. So I've been very fortunate to have someone who is willing to invest in the people and the time to go to these farms and with these farmers to build these relationships. He's recently returning from a trip in Rwanda, where he spent the last 2.5 weeks with our producers there. That's the kind of impact. And my only request to him, of course, he's going out there searching for great coffee, but is what cause is there that we can support? So once again, that sourcing, that roasting, and then additionally, then it became these spaces, a cafe space. Cafe space, yes, of course, to have an espresso machine and V60, but then how do we engage with our community? How do we get our community in these spaces and celebrate, educate, and do things that excite them, that reflects them? And that became all those ways that I had spoken about earlier. We've done art, done pop-ups, done so much. But the pandemic was something different. It required us to kind of have to think outside of our cafe space. It had us think about how do we give back outside of in here. There are great organizations. So we started looking outside to support local hospitals, local nonprofits who are helping fight homelessness, organizations, feeding, actually called an organization called Feed the People, Chef Tarek, and the work that he does in the community. Started looking out for these types of opportunities. So for the business, it became important that, yes, sourcing, roasting, serving great coffee, but community was going to be a part of it. All of this needed to work harmoniously. It was the reason for me to do it. It was the reason. It was what brought me joy. Of course, we want to serve great coffee. That's definitely something we do, but it needed to be much more. And I think about my career and the times in which I was working for my pay and how I didn't feel inspired. Let me tell you, there's not a day that I'm not waking up where I'm not feeling excited to go do something in this business and to further the goals that are sourcing and achieving these things that I'm speaking of. Those are the deeper things that I'm looking for now. What are some of the things that we've done when it comes to sourcing? Well, a fair trade, greater than fair trade, of course, because fair trade is very different in different parts of the world and how it's handled. Second payments on coffees, which is you pay for a coffee, but then if it's successful and based on how it moves, you pay again. You provide the producer another payment. Supporting a lot of women-owned producing farms, and then finding causes. Whether it's a washing station that produces the coffee being devastated from flood, or maybe a local school, different opportunities to get involved and engaged on a local level. We're really not trying to play that savior or giving a goat to the chief approach. We really want to do something that is going to be long lasting. We want to find these ways to create an economy that is beneficial to both in Africa, to the producers, and for us consuming it here in North America. We have a responsibility, and we're looking for those opportunities to do that. As small as we are, we're still doing it. Locally, these organizations that we've been able to partner with, there's too many to count, and that's great. We're not trying to keep track of all of that. We want to continue to find causes that are doing it right and help furthering their causes. We've been very fortunate to partner with United Way King County, Feed the People, Health Point. Fred Hutch. The list goes on and on. Once again, it's not that we have a lot, but we know that the very little that we do have, we want to be able to do something right with it. I believe a business can be socially conscious and profitable. It's doable. Definitely shareholders want to get paid, and all that exists. But it doesn't need to be excessive. It doesn't need to be without keeping community in mind and causes in mind and doing good in mind. And that's fundamentally what our objective is. We've definitely been able to compete with our coffees, taking them to competitions for specialty coffee, becoming semi-finalists in different competitions, as well as receiving recognition from Wall Street Journal, Time Magazine, Coffee Review, and so on and so forth. We're fortunate that we get to roast these incredible coffees. Coffees themselves are great, and our partners are incredible for the way they produce it. But it's also about, what do we do? We've got a great team here that roasts and produces a great cup of coffee as well. Our baristas, we have a full team that is working on that side as well. But holistically, looking at our business and saying, how do we keep it in totality strong and ever growing? Where are we at now? I can kind of course, touch on COVID and kind of where we've gotten to up until this point. In 2019, we opened up our brick and mortar location. That was January in Renton. We opened up our roastery and cafe. That first 12 months, I was looking at our P&L and saying, how are we going to be able to survive this? Running payroll was always, just a nerve-wracking experience. If we would have enough money in the bank account, basically. And those are, the likelihood of failure is such and such percent and all that stuff. We knew all those statistics. I was aware, the odds of succeeding were going to be very difficult. But we were very fortunate. We found a lot of support and we were able to make it through that first year. By January 2020, we were celebrating. We were like, okay, I think we got some. Well, who would have thought 2 months later, a pandemic would hit? That pandemic, it was very challenging on many levels. It had me, do things that I wasn't prepared for. I had started my MBA program January 2019, the same day I was opening up this Renton Cafe, because I knew that I was taking on a challenge that was so new to me, so foreign to me, and I wanted to become as prepared as possible for the things that would come. Well, I wasn't prepared for the pandemic, and it made me stop my program, my MBA program, because I knew I couldn't just do both things. And I knew I needed to focus in on my business. I feel like that actually became my MBA project right there, surviving the pandemic. That first week we saw the sales tank, 70% hit to revenue in our cafe. The writing was on the wall within the week that, we just weren't going to be able to keep our team. We helped everybody get on to unemployment. We tried finding different ways of support. But for 2 months, it was a team of 4 running the entire cafe, roastery, everything. Worked 7 days, very stressful, very bleak as to kind of where we were going to head. At the same time, we did see some opportunities. One was our website, our e-commerce. Because we roast our own coffee, we source and roast our own coffee. We saw more people hitting our website. And because so many people were working from home, they were inclined to buy coffee from the website and, consume it at home. And we're more interested in material about roasting, about brewing and different techniques. So we said, okay, this is an opportunity for us to say, let's step up our website. Created a subscription model, reduced the cost of our shipping. And within about a few weeks, we started seeing orders coming greater and greater and greater week over week. Our performance on the website pre-pandemic was, I'd say 2019, we probably generated under $2,000 on our website. And by the time pandemic started, we saw a significant jump, that of a performance that really was almost mirror to that of our cafe's performance. And so with that, we doubled down, we focused in on that. And then for those 2 months, we just kept on doing what we could, had a table at the front of our cafe, which is where I'm at right now. This is our Renton Cafe here. And serving drinks out of the front of the cafe there. By October of that year, we had kind of found, a consistency. It wasn't great. It was rough still, but there was consistency. That allowed me to start thinking about, okay, how do I manage my expenses? Where do I need to trim things down at? How do I keep cash flow running? And those exercises are things that gained back in that time in my finance. And with that, we were able to start saying, what can we do here now? What are the opportunities available to us? And we started hearing about the potential opportunity to purchase a cafe. And it was a friend of ours and he was very supportive of the opportunity to transition. And that opportunity, honestly, we wouldn't be able to afford at any time, but it was really the generosity of that individual that made it all possible. And we were able to open up our second cafe by April of 2021. We also started to gain, not only on the e-commerce side, but wholesale accounts. And so, other cafes asking to use our beans. And by, I think it was about, midsummer, we started hearing from grocery stores like QFC, and we were able to place our product inside QFC stores, Central Co-op. And then we got a phone call randomly one day from some of the employees at Amazon. And we were asked if we consider having a cafe presence inside their building. It would be a wholesale kind of opportunity. And it would be in collaboration with Compass Group. And we were able to place our branding there, as well as our coffee inside there. And that and all those other opportunities that kind of just started to flow one after the other allowed us to continue to sustain ourselves throughout the pandemic. And really, those opportunities, specifically the ones with cafe presence, didn't really see themselves growing until pretty much the beginning of 2022, because no one was really on the campuses of Amazon or Microsoft. But over that period of time, from 2019 until now, it's been a journey of those core principles that have gotten us to this point. Our sourcing approach. We're excited to talk about that. We love talking about our partners. We love talking about how much we pay for. We have transparency sheets and other information on our website that speaks to our coffee. Here in our cafes, we look to engage with our community. We want to. And that is, once again, combined by the, having a product that is also delicious. That's what drives us. That's what makes us, I'd say, attractive. That's what makes the business attractive. Once again, that's what makes it fulfilling for me, and I'm certain for those that are a part of the Boona team. It isn't so much that we're just doing coffee and putting it out. It's the intentionality and the desire of what it is that we're trying to produce. We're not perfect. We're small. We're growing. We're trying to figure it out, just as some of your businesses are. But that's the opportunity. And I think that as you take this journey, as you're moving in this path, on this path, the one thing I can only really speak to is find something that is much more beneficial than just the hobby. Something that's going to be more fulfilling than just satisfying personal ego or finances. Look to doing something positive for someone else. Try making an impact, a positive impact in somebody else's life. That's really where the reward is. It's not so much on, being the boss. I'll tell you, I'd rather have black hair than my gray hair right now, sprinkled in my hair. I take that back. That's not the fun part. The being up and stressing over things. That's not as enjoyable. Being a boss or being a leader is not easy. It comes with a lot of responsibilities. To be very honest with you, it's something that we kind of we don't speak too much about, is that responsibility. But that responsibility goes back to, what is the purpose of doing what you're doing? If it's gonna be for incremental gain for someone else, in a positive manner, to provide a livelihood for someone else, or to find a cause that you're going to donate to, or you're going to provide an opportunity to someone else, or you're going to take someone who has a desire to grow in a field like coffee, A lot of times the opportunity is seen as just you're a barista in coffee and that's the end of it. But in a case like this, you can become the roaster. You can go to origin and source the coffee and have relationship with the farmers. There are so many things, so many other areas within it. And it's to provide that opportunity even to others to say, no. There's no glass ceiling here. You can go and do that thing. You can become an Efrem. You can become an Ali. You can become the director and the owner of a own business that leads us to greater heights and inspires others to do the same. I think that's the responsibility a leader has. Leader's responsibility is not to just tell folks what to do, but to inspire them to go for their dreams and to support them along that journey. You know, we have many people that are here that are not necessarily here to become coffee experts. We realize that. But they may be desiring to become a pilot. They may be desiring to become lawyers. But we realize that. And we want to push them in that direction too, and encouraging. A responsibility then of a leader in that case is to encourage that person. You know, they're here to grow and to sustain themselves. They're being realistic about their goals. And so it's to provide that space, safe space for them to be able to do that as well, even if their desires are not necessarily in that field. It's to support. A leader's responsibilities vary, and it's a heavy burden. But if done right, it's very fruitful. It's very rewarding. And I'm far from a great leader. I'm working every day to become one. I realize the responsibility upon me to do so. But let me tell you, I'm having fun. I'm having fun doing what I'm doing. And I want you to find the joy in what it is that you're doing. You know, find that, whether it's coffee or aerospace, whatever it is, you know, go find that joy, you know, and share that knowledge, share that experience. No need to gatekeep. Open the doors for others and provide guidance so that they can reach higher levels. You know, nothing is as great as that. I mean, honestly, my joy, my satisfaction is really in that. I love coffee. Yes, I'm a coffee nerd, but it's really about the impact we're leaving for, you know, those around us. And with that, I want to say thank you. I know I've kind of spoken on several things. Hope you've enjoyed some of that history, that story. I'm honored. I'm grateful to be here with you all. I'd like to show you a quick video here now of kind of what it looks like inside the cafe, but also, you know, what that relationship was also like with SBA and SCORE throughout those earlier years of still kind of planning strategically about how I wanted to go about Boona and how I wanted to establish it, how I wanted to set it. I hope you enjoy it. It's not too long, but I hope you enjoy it.
The coffee has a story, the coffee has history, the coffee has a place where it came from. Those places have culture, those places have way of life. It's been thousands of years since coffee was discovered. So we want to bring that history, that culture, visually to the people. Not only they smell this beautiful coffee from Boona, and then they drink it and they experience the feeling and then the taste of it, but also we want them to feel visually the story of that coffee.
One thing I've always wanted to do was always make sure I involve my community work through food. I came up with a coffee ice cream called kerehe, which is a specific type of bean that grows in Ethiopia and has a very distinct flavor. And so with that, made an ice cream out of that and a portion of the proceeds go to a youth organization of our choice. So in the end, I mean, for me, working with Efrem was kind of like, I think it was just like due time. Yeah, it's been a great partnership.
That's why my company, Ikawa House, help them to market their product. And when Bonna saw we are working with those association, those women association, and they were interested to work with them to support those women.
Thank you so much. I hope you enjoy the fair. I am going to be here and I'm ready to enjoy some time with you all. And once again, super grateful, I'm honored. We hope to see you at Boona Coffee here soon. Thank you so much.